Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Tori, and today I want to share with you my top picks for young readers. And when I say young readers, I'm talking about your junior high, middle school-esque level readers. And these are books that I highly recommend to parents with kids in those age groups. I get asked about these kinds of books a lot, so I figured I would just make a video. The first book that I'm going to recommend is The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funk. This is by the same lady who wrote Inkheart, which was insanely popular when I was kind of in middle school and junior high, and I didn't mind Inkheart, which I know is going to shock a lot of people that are probably huge fans of it. I have several friends that have threatened to disown me because I'm not as big of a fan of Inkheart. I don't hate it, it just wasn't my favorite. I actually really preferred this book over Inkheart, partially because this one has a lot more found friendship themes, which is a big deal to me. I love that particular element. And then also this kind of has a sort of Oliver Twist kind of vibe to it, which is really fun. There's a character in here that's very reminiscent of the Artful Dodger in Oliver, he's one of my all-time favorite kid characters ever made. There's a lot of intrigue, and it's all told from the perspective of these really young kids that fall into this little gang of ruffians and meet the Thief Lord, who is the leader and is the kind of Artful Dodger-esque character. My second recommendation for this age category is a book that is ridiculously old and it's still ridiculously adorable. It's called The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. As you can tell, this copy of this book is extremely well read. There's a little boy named Keith who is living or staying at this hotel/inn with his parents, and he befriends a little mouse that lives in the inn and teaches him how to ride a little toy motorcycle, and it's ridiculously cute. The story of friendship in this is it's just an adorable book. Honestly, even if you're an adult, you should read this book because it's adorable and it will make you smile. My third recommendation in this category is a book called The Crystal Throne by Catherine Sullivan. Now, admittedly, I'm not sure how easy this book is to get. I'm sure that you can find it pretty easily. Catherine is actually a close friend of mine. I have taught a lot of young writers conferences with her, and she is a fantasy author that I really respect because she has really fun, interesting characters. She definitely does a good job kind of twisting the tropes a little bit, which is always really fun. And this one has kind of a Narnia vibe in the beginning, where this brother and sister are pulled into this world of magic. The magic and the just whimsy in this book, it's really, really well written, and I actually, this is probably one of my favorite young reader fantasy books. There's a lot of really awesome characters in this book and a lot of really cool creatures, and it's just a really enjoyable read. Okay, for number 4, I'm going more into the historical fiction side of things. When I was younger, and still now, but when I was younger, I discovered my obsession with ancient Egypt and all of the mythology and all of the just the society and the royalty and the warfare and everything. I was just completely obsessed with Egyptian history. And I discovered a book by one of my all-time favorite authors, Eloise Jarvis McGraw. I'm going to talk about literally probably one of my favorite books on the planet is by her, and I'm going to talk about that in a different video. The Golden Goblet follows the story of a boy named Ranifer who is quote-unquote apprenticed, but essentially enslaved to his older half-brother, who is basically kind of a jerk, and he's learning stonemasonry, and that's really, really not what he wants to do. He really loves silver and goldsmithing and doing fine jewelry work, and he is afraid that he's never going to get to actually do what he loves. He discovers at one point this golden goblet in his brother's chest of things, and Ranifer quickly discovers that this goblet is not something that you could just find on the street, and that he is suspicious that it has come from a tomb of one of the pharaohs, which would make his older brother a grave robber. So Ranifer then goes on this crazy thriller adventure trying to frame his older brother and prove that Gabu is actually like robbing the pharaohs. So again, if you're a young or an adult reader who really enjoys not only ancient Egypt, but also historical fiction, this is a really, really good read. It has some light thriller elements to it, and just, it's a really, really good book. My last recommendation is actually, I've got two, and by proxy, basically an entire set of an author's work. These are two of my favorites of his, and this one, The Long Patrol, I love to death because I should probably start by explaining Brian Jacques in general. Brian Jacques is an absolute genius because he uses essentially the same or very similar plots in all of his books, and you care and you love every single book no matter what. Brian Jacques has an incredibly rich world that is all created with animals that talk, and there's different cultures in each of the different species of animals. Like the hares are very different than the moles and the mice, and then you've got, you know, the antagonists are usually weasels or bobcats or foxes or something like that. My favorite character of his is a badger queen named Lady Crega Roseeyes, and she's a beast, and she's super cool, and this book follows her in full fighting mode, and she's amazing. He doesn't shy away from harder themes like, you know, death and warfare, but he does it in a way that is very appropriate. And so I highly, highly recommend these for young readers, because this is a great way to kind of segue into higher level fantasy books. He does a great job. His characters are so lovable and so distinct, and they're just, the culture is amazing. He does a great job world building with a bunch of small creatures. And the other one that is one of my favorites of his is Loam Hedge. One of the main characters is wheelchair bound, and she is just one of the sweetest characters. For all of his, I felt like this one has a lot of heart in it, and I love it for that. So this is the second Brian Jacques book that I recommend. But the beautiful thing about Brian Jacques is if you discover that you love him or your child loves him, there's literally like 20 or 25 of these, so you have a lot to choose from, and they're all good. So these are like my favorites, but I wouldn't not recommend any of them. I specifically chose these books because they are very gender neutral. They all have really strong main characters. These are all really, really good books for kids that are kind of in that in-between stage and they're ready for something a little bit meatier. Thank you so much for watching my video. I would love to know some of your favorite junior high and middle school reads in the comments, so please leave those below because I'm always looking for new recommendations. So be sure to comment below, and if you've read any of the books that I've recommended, please tell me about your experience with them. I'd love to hear about it. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.